Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact Video Series. My name is Ryan Duffy, and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about two important figures from the history of the city of Batavia, and are often called the men who built Batavia. So these two men are father and son Henry and Frank Homelius, who were sort of amateur architects that ended up designing, building, or overseeing restorations or the building of many of the largest homes and important buildings in Batavia's history. Between the 1870s and up until around the 1950s, every home tried to get a Homelius to design it. So we're going to go through the history of both men and show you some of the modern homes that they helped design that still stand today. Henry W. Homelius was born in Buffalo in 1850. His father, Henry B. Homelius, had immigrated to America as a child and settled in the German section of Buffalo. And his father was also a gifted carpenter and builder, which explains where Henry received his training from. When younger Henry was 6 years old, the family moved to Batavia, and he attended the local school system. However, he never received any formal education in architecture, as all his knowledge came from working with his father and the other craftsmen of the area. And at night, he would look over as many books as he could find on drafting, math, and architecture and other applicable information. In 1874, he married Catherine Blanker, and 2 years later, they had a son, Frank Homelius, who would carry on the family tradition. It was also that same year that he would receive his first major commission to build a house. And it was built for Robert Pease, who was a hardware merchant, and the house was built at 32 Ellicott Avenue, which actually ended up being a street that Henry designed most of the houses for. It features a commanding tower with an ocular dormer windows in the Second Empire style, palladium arches on the front porch, and 2-inch thick double-leaf entrance doors. And this was often in the style of Henry's choosing. After his first success, he was in high demand, and he would go on to design about a dozen other houses along Ellicott Avenue, as well as others in Elba, Oakville, Corfu, and across Genesee County. Among the touches that he favored were the onion dome towers, large porches with 3 pillars at each corner, palladium arches over smaller porches, and bay windows, often with pediments above the windows. He liked ornate window designs using stained or leaded glass, and they featured window seats and elaborate fireplaces. And his clients, as you can see by the ornateness of his designs, were those of the more upper class, including physicians, attorneys, merchants, and other of the like. He also received numerous commercial commissions, and many of them were on Main and Jackson Streets. And unfortunately, a lot of them did not survive urban renewal. Some of these included the Batavia Daily News Building, the Batavia Times Building, Niagara Mohawk, Fixed Printing, and the Doller Dye Foundry. And others included what became known as the Engine House, which was fire station, restaurant, and also was the city government seats. He also was responsible for building the original Batavia Hospital and did a lot of facade work on the Jackson Street storefronts. However, Henry's personal life might be a little different, as he was very arrogant, aggressive, and extremely litigious, as he was in court more times than not. And in one such case, he actually sued the son of Dean Richmond for work on the homes on Colorado Avenue for New York Central Railroad employees, over a difference of about $50 per home. He also got in many other arguments that were seen in the newspaper. Henry was a fervent Democrat and was heavily involved in rallying political members. He was also a drill master in the New York National Guard, and he would often be seen drilling in the backyard of his home at 41 Walnut Street. And he actually had to put it to use in 1877 when they were called in to break up a railroad strike in Buffalo. Henry's family situation, as time went on, had a lot of tragedy, as his brother Frank died of typhoid fever. And 10 years later, his father drowned. And then 3 years later, his mother died. Eventually, they established a shop at 9 State Street with his partners, where they sold wood and building products. And eventually, son Frank had to come home and help his father after Henry lost the tip of his finger in a building accident. And as time went on, Frank began to take over more of the family business as it became H.W. Homelius and Son, and in 1917, Henry Homelius died of stomach cancer. Moving on to the son Frank, his first major project after his father's death was renovating the Brisbane mansion, which became City Hall and is now the police station. And it was after these renovations that City Hall actually got to move into the building. He also helped renovate the Dipson and Atwater homes, but he had his own design as well, including St. Anthony's Community Center. And in 1923, he designed the new high school on Ross Street, though it wasn't eventually accepted. He also designed the Frank Thomas home at 39 Ross Street, which became sort of his crowning achievement, as it cost $125,000 in 1926, so a rather expensive home. He also added on to the Richmond mansion when it was the children's home, and he also designed part of the library's levels at the Richmond Memorial Library. Now, it became... Most of Frank's craftsmen, as he employed quite a few on most of his projects, came from Batavia Woodworking Company, and it was actually these men that would end up building their own homes in the style of the Homeliuses. Frank also was responsible for building several Queen Anne-style homes, including at 151 Summit, and other locations throughout the city. Now, with Frank's prestigious architectural talent, his home was a little bit different, though, as it was an unpretentious bungalow at 35 Richmond Avenue, a little bit different style for what you might see throughout the rest of the city. And Frank also served in many of the community organizations, including the Elks. He was also a member of the Moose and the Genesee County Fish and Game Protective, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals. Like his father, he was a staunch Democrat and also got into the political arena. He would run for... In 1939, Frank would run for mayor of Batavia and would actually win and served a single term in the position. Though he still kept designing buildings, as he was responsible for the design of the stadium grandstand, bleachers, and press box at MacArthur Stadium, later known as Dwyer Stadium, as part of a WPA project in 1939 for the Batavia Clippers. The next year, he threw out the first pitch for the Clippers in their second season. One project that left remained unfinished during his life was he wanted to design an annex to the Holland land office for a local library on history, though it never came to fruition. In late October, early November 1941, Frank became very sick and was actually unable to vote in his own re-election, and sadly would actually pass away on November 20th, 1941. And interestingly enough, his wife would actually serve the remaining term of his time as mayor. Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition of our Artifact video series and learned a little bit more about the men who built Batavia, Henry and Frank Homelius, and some of the buildings as you go around town that they designed that you can take a look at even today. So in case you've enjoyed any of our videos in the past, check them out on our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum. And if you particularly like anything, give it a like or even subscribe to the channel, as it helps us out and also gets you notified quicker when we release more videos. But still, the best way to come and learn more about what we have on display here at the museum is to stop by in person and check it out, as you'll be surprised how much more there is to all the stories that we share. So we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.